Good afternoon, Judge. I was going to let you know I've got a hearing, a Zoom hearing, scheduled in the 251st at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I wasn't aware of it when we set this date. My apologies.
Okay. Well, if we have to, we'll take a break while you go do that one.
Maybe we can get done before then.
Yeah, we're waiting on Cody Pirtle. I'm going to go ahead and call both cases again. And I've got Mr. Taylor. Did you arrange to have your client back again on phone?
He's supposed to be, Your Honor. Yes.
Okay. I've got a phone line. I'm going to go ahead and let that person in. I'm guessing that's him. We're on a continuation of a final hearing that began on February 26th. Ms. Gutierrez is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the child. Mr. Taylor's with us representing the father, Mr. Jones, who's with us. We're still waiting on Mr. Pirtle. He represents Ms. Chavez, who is with us. I'll also call cause number 819, a related case. Again, Ms. Gutierrez is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram for the child. Mr. Jackson's with us representing Mr. Vasquez, who is not with us. And I don't show him in the waiting room. I'll get to that here in a minute. Again, waiting on Mr. Pirtle. Mr. Jackson, as I said, is with us for Mr. Vasquez. So we're waiting on Mr. Pirtle. I do have an Arcelia Chavez in the waiting room. Is that a witness for somebody?
Your Honor, that's a party. It is the maternal grandmother, Arcelia.
Okay, Mr. Pirtle and Miss Arcelia Chavez are now with us. All right, in the waiting room now, I have Paula Miers with St. Francis, Lisa Galloway, Officer Garza, Andrew Johnston, and Mariah Glidewell.
Your Honor, if we could have Paula Miers, she's the caseworker, if she could be allowed in to remain, and Lisa Galloway is my first witness. Your Honor, I'd like to start with offering petitioner's exhibit number 9 in bays only. It is the certified copy of the status hearing order.
All right, objections?
No objection.
No objection.
All right, petitioner's 9 is admitted in the bays case.
Thank you, Your Honor. I next offer petitioner's exhibit number 10 in the Vasquez case, and that is the status hearing order in that case.
Objections?
No objection.
No objection.
Okay. Petitioner's 10 is admitted in the Vasquez case.
Thank you, Your Honor. Are you familiar with Vanessa Chavez and Jacob Chavez and Matthew Jones?
Yes.
And were you the permanency care specialist working under St. Francis Ministries for a good part of their case?
Yes.
Do you recall about when you started working on their case, what month and year?
January of 2023.
And is that when you were officially assigned to the case?
Yes.
And in December of 2022, were you helping out Mariah towards the end of the month since she was leaving?
Yes.
And Mariah Glidewell was the initial permanency caseworker on the case. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's great. Now, up to when were you the caseworker? Let me rephrase that. That was a bad question. When did you stop being the caseworker on this case?
The last Monday of August of 2023.
Okay, and that was prior to the final hearing that was scheduled at the end of August. Is that correct?
I believe so. I think that one got continued or something.
Yes, yes. Now, while you were on the case, what were your responsibilities as a permanency care specialist?
To ensure child safety and engage parents in working the services that were needed.
And did you make those efforts the entire duration that you were a permanency care specialist?
I did.
Now, do you recall whether or not Vanessa Chavez completed any services while you were the caseworker in that time?
Other than a few random drug screens, no, she did not.
What attempts did you make to engage Vanessa in services?
I met with her monthly. We had very open conversations about what was expected or needed to change in order for her to be able to reunify with her children. Toward the end of July, I had met with her and she looked very poorly. So I try to encourage her to go to like a rehab to get some help. I followed up with providers to see if she had started services.
And were there several months that you were unable to locate her while you were the permanency care specialist?
Yes.
Now, when you saw her, you said it during July of 2023, is that correct?
Yes.
Where was she when you saw her?
In the parking lot of a motel off of I-40, and I forget the name of it.
Do you recall anything striking about her appearance?
She appeared to be in a nightgown with a house coat over the top of it. She was very dirty. Her fingernails were dirty. She had dirt on her neck and arms, and she was looking pretty rough and really thin.
Did she indicate where she was living in that conversation?
She had stated that she was trying to get money for a motel room and that she was currently staying in her van.
Okay. Do you have a list of the services that parents were supposed to be working on in the case while you were the caseworker?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that list from your court report, that last court report that you did in August of 2023?
I believe it was July that I did the court report, but yes.
Okay. And Your Honor, I'm asking that just so that if she refers to that to refresh her memory, the other attorneys know where that information is being refreshed from.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Lisa, can you give me a list of services that Vanessa Chavez was supposed to be working on and indicate whether she started, was in progress, or completed, or didn't start at all?
Okay. The first one I have is a parenting class, which was not started or completed. And then for the stable living, she was currently staying in her van or going from motel to motel. And then with her comply, she did not comply entirely with her family plan of service. She had not started any services other than a few drug screens at the beginning of the case. She did not maintain regular contact when things of importance changed in her life. And then she never provided like any current employment. On her drug screens, do you want me to break those down, or?
Yes, if you could go through the drug screens that occurred while you were on the case, and if you could include as well if they were requested but not completed, or if she was unable to locate that month.
Okay, so on 1/4 of 23, a UA was observed and was negative. In February of 23, I was unable to locate and no drug screen was requested. On 3/21 of 23, I requested her to go by 4 p.m. She did not. In April, I was unable to locate, no screen was requested. In May, unable to locate and no drug screen requested. In June, unable to locate and no drug screen was requested. In July, on the 13th of 2023, requested to go by 7:14 by 4 p.m. and she did not go.
Okay, and was that the same conversation where you saw her in the hotel or in the parking lot of a hotel?
I believe so.
Okay, and so to your recollection, was that request made to her in person?
It was.
Okay. In addition to that, was she also court ordered to drug screen at the permanency hearing on February 13th of 2023?
That I don't recall. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Your Honor, I asked the court to take judicial notice of the initial permanency hearing order before final order heard on February 13th of 2023.
Okay, so noted.
I next asked the court to take notice that in both cases, Vanessa Chavez was ordered to hair follicle and urinalysis drug screen by 4 p.m. that day.
So noted.
I also asked the court to take judicial notice that Jacob Vasquez was ordered to drug screen by 4 p.m. that day.
So noted.
Additionally, Your Honor, I next asked that the court take judicial notice of the permanency hearing order before final order on June 5th of 2023.
Give me just a second. Okay, go ahead.
And Your Honor, for clarification, I'm asking the court to take judicial notice of those orders in both the Bays and Vasquez cases.
All right, so noted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I asked the court to take judicial notice that Vanessa Chavez was court ordered to drug screen by 4 p.m. on June 5th, 2023 in both cases.
So noted.
And that Jacob Vasquez was ordered to hair follicle and urinalysis drug screen by 4 p.m. on June 5th, 2023.
Okay, hang on just a second. I can't go as fast as you're going when you're mixing the parents.
Yes, Your Honor, I'll slow down.
Okay, so for Jacob, we have that he did not he did not drug test, is court ordered on February 13th, 2023 and June 5th, 2023, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
The court next asks, I next ask the court to take judicial notice of the permanency hearing order before final order heard on August 28th of 2023 in both cases. I next ask the court to take judicial notice that Vanessa Chavez was court ordered to hair follicle and urinalysis drug screen by August 28th of 2023, or on August 28th, 2023.
So noted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll move along in my questioning.
Okay.
Now, Lisa, as far as Jacob Vasquez's services ordered in the Vasquez case, do you have a list of services that he was supposed to be working on?
I do. Do you want me to finish Vanessa's?
Oh, yes, if you could finish Vanessa's, please.
Okay. She was also a 12-step program that had not been started. OSAR assessment, which had not been completed. Individual counseling. She said that she was receiving therapy for postpartum depression with Texas Panhandle Centers. I did call and follow up on that, and she was not a current or a past patient there. She did not complete the psychosocial. Visits were stopped on 4/3 of 23 due to excessive visits missed. She did not complete the rational behavioral therapy, and she did not complete or participate in a domestic violence support group.
And to your knowledge, everything except the domestic violence support group at that time had been ordered in the status hearing order. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, Lisa, would you please go through the list of services for Jacob Vasquez in a similar fashion?
Okay. Jacob, he did not complete the parenting classes. As far as letting us know if anything had changed, it was unknown where he was living. Sometimes he was in Oklahoma, claims to be staying with his grandma, and other times he states that he is living in a motel. As far as complying, he did not comply with his family plan of service. He did not keep in contact or provide information in regards to progress. Stable housing could not be confirmed with him as it was unknown where he was living for sure. It was unknown if he was employed. No employment information was ever provided. And then his drug screens starting in January. On 1/17, he was asked to go but did not go. And
I'm sorry, January 17 of 23.
Oh, I'm sorry, 23, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
On February of 23, no contact was made and no request to drug screen was made. On March 21st of 23, he was asked to drug screen by 4 p.m. but did not go. In April of 23, no contact was made and no request was made. May, June, and July of 23, I was unable to locate him and a request was not made. And then he did not complete the OSAR. He did not participate in counseling. He had not completed a psychological. Visits were court ordered to stop on 2/13 until further order from the court. He did not complete rational behavioral therapy, and he did not complete his BIP classes. And to my knowledge, he hadn't started any services at that time.
Now, Lisa, all of the services that you discussed just now, except for BIP, were those court ordered in the status hearing?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And for clarification, the OSAR is a substance abuse assessment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, when you saw, let's go back to that July in-person meeting with Vanessa. You said she looked very rough. How concerned were you for her well-being at that time?
I was very concerned for her well-being at that time and like her ability to be able to care for herself. Like I said, she was very thin, very dirty. I've never seen her not put together.
Did you encourage her at that point to seek substance abuse treatment?
Yes, I provided, I encouraged her to look into going to Synacor
Okay.
to get some help.
And did you reach out as well to Arcelia, the mother of Vanessa, to encourage her to help Vanessa get into rehab as well?
I did.
Now let's go through the list of services for Matthew Bays. I'm sorry, Matthew Jones. I apologize. I got those last names mixed up. Matthew Jones, the father.
Okay. His was to complete parenting classes. He was incarcerated in Potter County Jail with no intended release date. Provide information of any changes. Again, he was incarcerated. Comply with.
If I may interrupt you, I'm sorry to do that. If he was incarcerated, do you mean by saying that to your knowledge, he did not start that service?
He did a workbook while he was incarcerated.
For what service?
I believe the workbook only entailed like for parenting type things.
Okay. So instead of saying that he was incarcerated, could you simply state whether that service was completed, and if it wasn't completed, whether it was ever started?
Okay.
And
Okay.
let me interrupt too, Ms. Galloway. I think you testified that he didn't do the parenting, then you said he did a parenting workbook. Did that count as completion of parenting?
He didn't complete the entire workbook. He only completed one section of it.
Okay, that answers that question. Go ahead then.
Okay. As far as complying, he did not complete that due to being incarcerated. Maintaining regular contact. There were times that he refused to talk to me whenever I went up there to talk with him. Stable housing, he was not able to complete that. Employment was not completed. It is unknown if he maintained a drug-free lifestyle due to not being able to drug test him. The OSAR was not completed. Counseling was not completed. Psychological was not completed. And I believe that was all that was on his family plan.
Okay. And the services that you indicated, whether or not they were completed, were those court ordered?
Yes.
Now, you were off the case by the end of August of 2023, correct?
That is correct.
So if Mr. Jones had completed any additional services while incarcerated, you would be unaware of those. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, while you were on the case, did Matthew Jones ever write any letters to his son, Matthew Bays?
He did.
Okay. How many letters did he write?
I recall 2.
And you were on the case for approximately 8 months. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you agree that that is not material or substantial contact with the child?
I would. But there was a no contact order prior to me getting on the case due to other legal issues. And so those letters were never given to the child.
Okay. Can you clarify what the no contact order between you Jones was?
The order I recall, and I can't read it to you verbatim because I don't have access to it, was that there's just no contact due to safety issues.
And was that in a prior court order out of a legal case?
Yes.
Okay. So that's why there was no contact then, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What major concerns do you have, or at the end of your time working on the case, did you have with Vanessa Chavez as a parent for these children?
She didn't have a stable home for them. She didn't make any changes that needed to be made regarding how she could provide safety for the children.
Now, whenever Ms. Chavez texted or called you, were you responsive to her?
Yes.
Did she ever ask you to set up any services for her?
Not that I recall.
And if she had made any calls or texts to you after you left St. Francis, obviously you would not have been able to respond to those, correct?
Correct.
Now, in regards to Jacob Vasquez as a parent, what concerns do you have for him as a parent?
Due to not being able to confirm that he had stable housing or employment or anything, also his admittance to using illegal substances, I would be very concerned that he didn't have the ability to provide a safe environment for Antonio. And also he wasn't able to complete the service to mitigate the concerns from the beginning of the case.
Now, at the beginning of the case, is it correct that both Jacob and Vanessa tested positive for marijuana and cocaine?
To my knowledge, yes.
And were you aware that Matt Hild as well tested positive in the past for cocaine?
I remember reading about that, yes.
And was Antonio removed for being positive for cocaine at birth?
Yes.
And is that also a major concern of returning either Antonio or Matthew to Vanessa or Jacob?
Yes.
In regards to Matthew Jones, what major concerns do you have regarding Matthew Jones's ability to parent?
Due to him being incarcerated, he wouldn't be able to parent.
And are you aware that he is in TDCJ for murder?
Yes.
And is that also a major concern for his ability to provide for the safety of the child?
Yes.
And in addition to that, does it also call into question what kind of role model he would be for the child as well?
Yes.
Now, during your case, did you ever see Matthew and Antonio?
I did.
And was Matthew's child ever in counseling?
He was.
How did his behavior change from the beginning of the case to the end, well, to August of 2023 when you left?
He was pretty much a different child. Like, he was really hyper and all over the place in the beginning, and toward the end he was able to kind of like calm down and focus.
And the home that they are in with Arcelia and Genaro Chavez, is that home, while you were on the case, providing everything for them?
They were, yes.
And were both children healthy and happy in that home as well?
Yes.
Ask the witness.
All right, Mr. Pirtle. I'm sorry, let me ask real quick. Ms. Galloway, I think from looking at my notes, Matthew Jones, he was incarcerated throughout the length of this case from the beginning, was he not?
Yes.
So there was never any drug tests you asked him to comply with when he could have complied with?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Pirtle.
All right, thank you, Judge. Ms. Galloway, when was the last drug test you required of my client, Vanessa Chavez?
The last one I asked her to go to, I'm sorry, I have to look it up, was on 7/13 by 4 p.m. on 7/14 due to the time of day I met with her.
Okay, so in July of last year?
Yes.
Okay, you haven't asked for another drug test since then?
After that, she had gone to Senecor at the end of July. And then I was off the case prior to her coming out of Senecor.
And then did she complete any services at all?
No, she did not.
Did she start her services?
Not to my knowledge, other than going to Senecor. And I don't know that she completed that.
I've asked the witness.
All right. Ms. Galloway, you talked about the last test was in July of 2023. However, I think we've already covered she was court ordered to drug test on August 28th, 2023, and that was positive for marijuana and cocaine. Is that correct?
I have known, well, we might have testified to that, but I wasn't on the case then.
Okay, you were already gone.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Okay, then let's see Mr. Taylor.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. If I understand for clarification purposes, you basically said that Mr. Matthew Jones didn't perform any of the services because of him being incarcerated, correct?
That is correct.
And he was already incarcerated when the child came into care and remained there when you left the case.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'll pass witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, I'll represent Jacob Vasquez. And when was the last time, to the best of your knowledge, when was the last time you had contact with him?
Like actually saw him in person?
Or on the phone or in writing? Just any kind of contact at all?
Believe he sent me a text message either June or July of 2023.
Okay. Okay, you had mentioned earlier that I think that he had told you that he may be living at his grandmother's house in Oklahoma, right?
Correct.
Okay, in June, I had reached out to you about trying to locate him, and you had given me an Amarillo address on Angeles Drive. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And then we sent correspondence to that address, and then several months later in November, apparently we had acquired another address on Palmetto Trail in Amarillo. Were you aware of that address? Of course, you would have been gone by then, I think.
Yeah, I was out of the case by then.
Okay, all right. And so and you left this case about toward the end of July, is that correct?
No, it was the end of August. Hold on, I can pull up a calendar and give you a date.
Well, I mean, it's fine. I wouldn't need a specific date, but up until that time, before you left, were you ever able to finally locate Jacob Vasquez?
The last face-to-face contact I had with Jacob, I believe, was in March.
Okay. Okay. But you've not, during your time on the case, were you able to locate Jacob Vasquez?
I did have contact with him during my time on the case. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right, Celia Chavez, this is Judge Graham. Do you have any questions you want to ask Ms. Galloway? You'll have to unmute.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone have further questions for Ms. Galloway?
I do, Your Honor. I have a couple of follow-ups, Your Honor.
Okay.
Lisa, did you make attempts while you were the permanency care specialist to engage Jacob Vasquez in services?
Yes, I did.
And did a lot of those attempts include just attempting to locate him?
Yes.
And when you were able to locate him, did you offer connecting him with services?
Yes, I even provided updated family plans of service for him.
Okay. Is it correct that that Vanessa Chavez was also arrested while you were working the case in March of 2023?
Yes.
And that Jacob was with her as well?
Yes.
Do you recall whether or not that was drug related?
It was.
Okay. Your Honor, that's all I have for this witness. If nobody else has questions for her, I request that she be released.
Anyone else have questions for Ms. Galloway?
No, Your Honor.
No questions and no objection.
All right, okay.
No
All right,
questions.
then. Ms. Galloway, first of all, I want to thank you and compliment you for being so well prepared today. You've been gone from this business for over a year and a half, and you were very well prepared today. And I can't tell you how much that means to me and to all the parties and lawyers involved. So I will go ahead and remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business. And once again, thank you for your testimony.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
Uh-huh.
Before I start questioning the officer, I'd like to ask the court to take judicial notice of, just a second, I lost my page. It's the prior final order. It is an order in suit affecting the parent-child relationship. It's out of Potter County. That case has been transferred and consolidated into the current cause number. And I ask that the court take judicial notice that not awarded access to the child as it would endanger his physical health or emotional welfare.
Okay, did you have a cause number for the previous cause?
I do, Your Honor. Currently, this case has been transferred into ours, but the old cause number is.
All right. And you're asking I take judicial notice out of that final order that he was not allowed contact with the child?
Yes, Your Honor, and the date of that hearing was December 11th of 2019.
Okay. Okay, so noted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy Garay, who do you work for?
Yes, ma'am. I'm currently employed with the Sherman County Sheriff's Office in Stratford, Texas.
And what do you do for them?
I'm a patrol deputy, sergeant. I answer calls for service, help in the jail and stuff like that.
Okay. And on March 15th of 2023, did you arrest Vanessa Chavez?
I did.
And was she with Jacob Vasquez?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall what Vanessa was arrested for?
I arrested her. I was for having some pills that were in I had located some pills in I believe it was in a clear bag that I located underneath the cup holders.
And based on your training and experience, did you identify those pills as a controlled substance?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that controlled substance?
It was one moment. Let me.
You're breaking up, sir.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, you might try.
They had the letter N. Okay. They had the letter N 3357 on them. There were 6 of them, and I believe they were hydrocodones, if I recall correctly.
Now, prior to identifying,
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I got it. Letter N 3357, because he was cutting out. I didn't want to get the number wrong.
So yes, ma'am, the letter N and then the number 357 was printed on them.
thank you. Was she charged with anything else or arrested for anything else that day?
No, ma'am.
Was Jacob Vasquez charged with anything that day?
No, ma'am. I released them. I just released them with I believe it was 3 citations, but I did file a case on him, and I'm just waiting to hear from the district attorney's office.
Okay. What charges have you presented to the district attorney's office regarding Jacob Vasquez?
Possession of marijuana greater than or less than, or greater than or equal to 4 ounces, but less than 5 pounds of marijuana.
And what caused you to bring that charge against Jacob?
After reviewing his criminal history, he had extensive, long, drug usage and other charges related to that. And at that time, because of the children that were there, I did not want to have to, being out here in a rural area, it's kind of difficult to get CPS sometimes. I'm the only officer in the county responding to calls, so I let him go with Jacob Vasquez, and I would just present the charges later at a later date to the DA.
Okay.
But he was in possession of that marijuana at the time of the traffic stop.
Okay. Now let's go back to the beginning of the traffic stop. I just wanted to be clear on what charges were pending and who was arrested for what.
Yes, ma'am.
On that day, how did you get involved with Jacob Vasquez and Vanessa Chavez?
So on that day, I observed them. Jacob Vasquez was driving at this time. I observed his clothing, and they drove into Pilot, and I ran the license plate. It came back that it was expired. It was expired at that time, showed to be expired on November 2022, and this was the date that I pulled them over was March of 2023. So it had been several months had passed that the vehicle registration had already been expired. I waited for them to pull out of the parking lot, and as they got back onto US Highway 287, I got behind them, and I turned on my emergency lights on my patrol car and conducted a traffic stop.
And upon pulling them over, did you observe anything else that may have been a violation?
At that time, no. It wasn't until I believe I went up to the driver's side and I could already smell the odor of marijuana. It was overwhelming. And that is when Jacob, he already knew that he had been caught, and he just pulled out a big old plastic bag of what I know from my training experience to be marijuana. And that's when I removed him from the vehicle and interviewed him during the detention.
Okay. And did Jacob claim the marijuana is his?
Yes.
Okay. And whose vehicle was it?
I was registered to Vanessa Chavez. That's what came back on my MDT and through dispatch. Though Jacob was driving it, he said they didn't have money to update the registration. That's why they were using it at the time, and that's why it was expired. But the vehicle showed to be registered to Vanessa Chavez.
Okay. And during a probable cause, I'm so sorry, I don't know why I can't say that word right now. During a probable cause search, is
Yes,
that when
ma'am.
you located the pills you suspected to be hydrocodone?
Yes, and I actually, when I moved to Vanessa at the time, she was sitting in the front seat, so I had both occupants out of the vehicle. I let children stay in the vehicle just because I believe it was just the weather. Let them stay in the car while I searched. From her side, in the center console cup holder, I can tell it had been tampered with. They had popped it out, and the baggie was just like it looked like, from what it appeared to, they just quickly did it just to hide something. And I pulled them out and showed them to her, and she knew right away what they were. So that's what made me believe that she was the one that had put them underneath there.
And when you say she knew what they were, did she identify them as hydrocodone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did she admit to smoking marijuana, quote unquote, every now and then?
Yes, once I arrested her, I took her to the booking at the sheriff's office, and that's where I interviewed her and read her Miranda rights.
And did she admit to have taken hydros, quote unquote, hydros in the past?
Yes, ma'am.
And in your experience, is hydros a nickname for hydrocodone pills?
Yes, ma'am. They call that it's just a short slang word they use.
The children that were in the vehicle, is it your understanding that they were Jacob Vasquez's older children, not Vanessa's?
Correct.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Right, Mr. Pirtle,
No questions, Judge.
Mr. Taylor,
No question, John.
Mr. Jackson,
No questions.
Mr. Ingram,
No questions.
Miss Celia Chavez, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, if no one has further questions for Officer Garay, can he be excused?
No objection.
No objection.
No
No
objection.
objection.
Okay, officer, thank you for your testimony and thank you for your service. I'll remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Thank you, Your Honor. You'll have a nice day.
You too.
Thank you, Your Honor. The department calls Mariah Glidewell as its next witness. Thank you, Your
Okay.
Honor. Mariah, who do you currently work for?
I work for St. Francis Ministries Foster Care.
And prior to working in that section of St. Francis, were you working as a permanency specialist for St. Francis?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And are you the initial caseworker?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that means you started working the case from the very beginning up until when you left. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you left that permanency care position, was that in December of 2022?
Yes, it was.
Can you briefly describe what your responsibilities were to the family as a permanency care specialist?
So, as a permanency specialist, you work with all parents that are involved in the case to help provide services to help resolve the issue for concern of removal of the children.
Okay. And as a permanency care specialist, did you also prepare the service plans for this case?
Yes.
And were the service plans that you prepared, were those for Matthew Jones, Vanessa Chavez, and Jacob Vasquez?
Yes, ma'am.
And were all the service plans reasonably tailored to the issues in the case?
Yes, they were.
And were the main issues for Jacob and Vanessa domestic violence and drug use?
Yes.
And was the main issue for Matthew Jones incarceration?
Yes.
And would you agree criminal activity?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, were these service plans uniquely tailored for each parent?
Yes, they were.
And can you identify a couple of services that were uniquely tailored for Vanessa?
So for Vanessa Chavez, there was the OSAR assessment that helps with drug usage and abuse of them. And then also individual counseling that would help with her drug usage and also her postpartum depression.
And the OSAR, that's a substance abuse assessment. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that a necessary assessment to have parents engage with further drug treatment?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Can you identify a couple of services that were uniquely tailored for Jacob Vasquez?
It would again be the OSAR assessment and then also living a drug-free lifestyle.
I did it
No,
again.
you're good.
For Matthew Jones, can you identify a couple of services uniquely tailored for Matthew Jones?
For his, it would be individual counseling and then also parenting classes.
Okay. Now, when you created these service plans, were you able to go over that service plan with Vanessa?
Yes, ma'am.
And was Jacob present to go over his service plan as well?
Yes, ma'am.
How did that meeting go?
It did not go very well. Going through the services, Vanessa seemed to be very understanding and listening to me. But once we got down further into the service plan, Jacob became very upset and started raising his tone and arguing that it was stupid that he had to do this and that he did not want to.
And were you concerned for your safety at that point?
Yes, I was.
And was the service plan for Vanessa in the Bay's case identical to her service in the Vasquez case?
Yes, it was identical. The only thing that was different was the visitation with each child.
Okay. Now, did you go over Matthew Jones's service plan with him?
Yes, I did.
And was he in Potter County Jail at that time?
Yes, he was at that time.
Okay, great. Now, while you were the caseworker, it sounds like it was only for a couple of months. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me pull a date from over here just a moment. Now, those service plans were made in order of the court on October 10th of 2022, correct?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Okay, and that was for both cases, correct?
Yes.
In between that time of the status hearing order and the end of December, when you switched to a different position, did you make affirmative attempts with Vanessa Chavez to engage her in services?
Yes, I did several different times.
Did she start any services while you were the caseworker on the case?
No, she did not. Besides doing her drug screening and attending her visits with her children.
Okay. Now, in regards to Jacob Vasquez, did you also make attempts to engage Jacob Vasquez in services?
Yes, I did.
Was he receptive?
He was not. Again, no services were completed. I can't recall an exact number of drug testings he did make as a worker, and then his visits were sporadic.
Now, in regards to your attempts to get him started with services, did he make any, or rather, what statements did he make in response?
He responded in 3 different situations that he wanted to relinquish his parental rights.
But did he ever actually sign a relinquishment for you?
No, he did not.
Okay. And while you were on the case, was Matthew Jones in Potter County Jail the entire time?
Yes, he was.
Now, what major concerns did you have regarding Vanessa and Jacob while you were the caseworker?
The excessive drug usage and then also the domestic violence.
And did either parent address let me cut that question up, Your Honor, I apologize. Did Vanessa take any steps to address the drug issues while you were the caseworker?
No, she did not.
Did she take any steps to address the domestic violence while you were on the case?
No, she did not.
Did Vanessa and Jacob continue in a relationship while you were on the case?
Yes, they did. I'm not 100%, but I believe in December they did have a temporary break. I'm not 100% if it was just what they had told me to just say they were on a break or if it truly was.
Now, while you were the caseworker, did Jacob and Vanessa also try to pull you into their relationship arguments?
Yes, they did.
Can you describe that for the court a little bit?
They would create group chats that would have us in there and they would argue with each other about just random things. There was a time Vanessa said that Jacob was harassing her and sending her money on Cash App. One of the screenshots said that she received $1 from Jacob Vasquez, saying that $1 because that was all she was worth. So that was an example of what Vanessa was doing. She also disappeared and had no contact with myself, her parent support worker, or her mother, and made it seem like something had happened to her. And we had to get Amarillo Police Department involved because we were unsure if a wreck had happened, a domestic violence thing happened, or if she was arrested.
Would it be accurate to say that Jacob and Vanessa were more focused on their relationship troubles than they were on the children?
That would be correct.
Now, regarding Matthew Jones, what major concerns did you have with Matthew Jones while you were the caseworker?
Just his pending criminal activity charges in his relationship with Matthew, as he had been incarcerated for a while prior to meeting him.
Okay. And did the fact that he had pending murder charges at your point of having the case, did that cause you concern?
Yes, it did.
Would you agree that that indicates violence and instability?
Yes, it does.
And does that sound like a safe person for the child to be around?
It does not.
Now, as you started, I guess, getting towards the end of your time as a caseworker on this case, was that in November or December 2022?
It was November 2022 that Lisa Garza, who's now Galloway, I believe, started shadowing me, so that way she can fully take over after I left in December of 2022.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Mr. Pirtle,
I have no questions.
Mr. Taylor.
No questions, no.
Mr. Jackson.
Briefly, Your Honor. Ma'am, maybe you've mentioned this and I may have missed it. But were you the permanency specialist that was on this case when the original petition was filed on August 30th of 2022?
I believe so. I think I was assigned very early on in September whenever it was coming from investigations.
Okay, and then you remained on the case, you said, until December of 2022, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay, and what caseworker did you say that took over after you?
Lisa Garza, that's now Lisa Galloway, I believe.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, and I take it that whatever contact information that you had for Jacob Vasquez, that was provided to the follow-up caseworker, Ms. Galloway. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, sir, it would be.
Okay. While you were in the case, was Jacob maintaining contact with you?
It was very inconsistent.
Okay. Inconsistent, like once a month, once every?
Yes, once a month. I believe I only met him in person to actually do an actual like home visit with him once in the home, and then maybe once at his, I believe maybe his mother's or grandmother's address in December, which was my last month.
Okay, at his mother's or grandmother's address, was that here in Amarillo?
Yes, sir, it was.
And were those addresses in your system? Did you put those in your reports, what address you went to?
I believe so, but I can't 100% recall.
Okay, all right, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right, and Celia Chavez, any questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All right, any follow-ups from anyone for Ms. Glidewell?
No, Your Honor, I ask that she be released.
All right, objections?
No
No objection.
Okay. Ms. Glidewell, thank you for your testimony. I'll release you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, would it be possible to have a 5 or 10 minute break? There he is. Thank you, Your Honor. The department calls Officer Destiny Garza. Oh, he was talking to me. Thank you, Officer Garza. Who do you work for?
Hereford Police Department.
Are you a certified police officer?
Yes.
How long have you been with Hereford PD?
11 months.
Okay. And on October 29th of 2023, did you respond to a dispatch involving Vanessa Chavez?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that call out was for?
Okay, so this happened approximately around 1:29 in the morning. And so at 108 Northwest Drive, dispatch advised responding officers that it was a car that hit 3 vehicles in a mailbox. So when we get there, we observed the vehicle. It was wrecked. The driver was Brian Navarro and the passenger was Vanessa Chavez.
Was that vehicle a white Ford Fiesta?
Yes.
And during your call out, was it identified as a stolen vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to speak with Vanessa Chavez?
Yes.
Did she identify herself as the owner of the white Ford Fiesta?
Yes.
Was there anything concerning that you observed of Ms. Chavez during your talk with her?
So when I made my initial contact with her, she was still in the passenger side. I advised her, to get out of the vehicle. Fire was going to make sure everything was okay to clear the vehicle in case, so that way it didn't catch on fire or anything. So I spoke to her outside the vehicle, and what she told me was, the last thing she remembers is she was in Amarillo, Texas, on her way to a party with Brian, and she fell asleep. And the last thing she remembers is, her head hitting the dash. And that's when she woke up and she didn't even realize that she was in Hereford.
Okay. Did she decline medical attention?
Yes, ma'am. EMS went and they made contact with her and I stepped aside. So they spoke to her on scene and she did decline.
Now, before you asked her to get out of the vehicle, did you observe anything notable on the floorboard of the passenger side?
Yes.
And what did you observe?
I observed an open Disaronno bottle and a few Fireball little travel-sized, shooter-sized bottles.
And is Disaronno an alcoholic beverage?
Yes.
Is Fireball an alcoholic beverage as well?
Yes.
Now, you said the passenger floorboard. Is that the area that Vanessa Chavez was sitting in?
Yes.
All right. Now, during inspection of the vehicle, was anything suspicious found?
So I wasn't the one who searched the vehicle. That was actually Sergeant Johnston.
Okay.
But
And
I was aware that something was found in the back seat.
and was that a backpack of marijuana?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Vanessa Chavez and the driver of the vehicle, were they both arrested for possession of a controlled substance?
Vanessa was arrested for possession of a controlled substance because a bottle of Xanax that didn't have her name on it was found inside the jail.
Now,
But Navarro and Chavez were arrested for the possession of marijuana. Yes.
okay. Now, upon her arrest from possession of marijuana, was she taken to the jail?
Yes.
And when arrested individuals are taken to the jail, are they typically searched?
Yes.
And during that process, can you tell us what was found on Vanessa?
A bottle of Xanax without her prescription on it.
Was the label scratched out or did it not have a label at all?
It didn't have a label.
Okay. Did she claim to be hers?
Yes. She did say that she had a prescription and she wasn't able to provide that in the jail.
That's how she was arrested for possession of a controlled substance, in addition to the possession of marijuana, correct?
Yes.
All right, pass the witness.
Mr. Pirtle,
No questions?
Mr. Taylor,
No question, John.
Mr. Jackson,
No questions.
Mr. Ingram,
No questions.
Ms. Chavez.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything further of Officer Garza?
No, Your Honor.
All right, can she be excused?
No objection.
Okay.
No
All right
objection.
then. Officer Garza, thank you for your testimony. Thank you for your service. I'll release you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The department next calls Sergeant Andrew Johnston with Hereford PD. Your Honor. Sergeant Johnston, who do you work for?
I work for the Hereford Police Department.
How long have you worked for them?
I've worked for Hereford for approximately 7 years.
Thank you, sir. On October 29th, 2023, did you respond to a vehicle accident involving Vanessa Chavez?
Yes.
And was she identified as a passenger in that vehicle?
Yes.
Now, we've already had Officer Garza come in and testify to the collision and a couple of other items. I'd like to ask you about the probable cause search. Sorry, I keep tripping over that word. I apologize. I'd like to ask you about the search of the vehicle.
Okay.
Okay. So in processing the stolen vehicle, did you search the vehicle?
Yes.
And did you find anything significant?
Yes.
What significant item did you find?
Inside the vehicle, there was open containers. Along with that, I found a black backpack that had marijuana inside of it.
Okay. And what part of the vehicle was that backpack found in?
It was in the rear passenger area on the passenger side.
Were there any other bags or items with it?
Yes, there were 2 other bags. One bag had male items. The other bag had female items inside of it.
And by female items, do you mean like feminine hygiene products? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And when you talked to Ms. Chavez, did she indicate whether or not it was hers?
I didn't talk to her directly. I asked Officer Garza to speak with her. Whenever she did, she said she didn't know anything about it.
Okay. And would both people in the vehicle have had access to that backpack of marijuana?
Yes.
And were both people charged for possession of marijuana?
Yes.
Now, Officer Garza testified that Vanessa Chavez was also charged with possession of a controlled substance. However, strike that. Was there also a criminal trespass issue against Vanessa?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that issue was?
The issue was she was a passenger inside of a stolen vehicle. She didn't have permission from the owner, effective consent from the owner to be inside that vehicle.
Okay, so she was charged with that as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Pirtle,
No questions.
Mr. Taylor,
No question, John.
Mr. Jackson,
No questions.
Mr. Ingram,
No questions.
Ms. Chavez.
No questions.
All right, then, if no one has further questions, can Sergeant Johnston be excused?
No objection.
No objection.
Okay.
No objection.
Sergeant Johnston, thank you for your testimony. Thank you for your service. I'll remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other witnesses, Ms. Gutierrez?
Yes, Your Honor. The department calls Paula Miers, and just to let the court know she's my last witness.
Okay. All right, Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Paula, who do you work for?
St. Francis Ministries.
And what do you do for them?
I'm a permanency specialist.
And what is your role with the family as a permanency specialist?
I am to work with the family and engage the parents into working services to mitigate the risk of what caused the removal in the first place.
Okay. Now, when were you assigned to this case?
I got the case on August 29th.
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to review the status hearing orders in each case?
I have.
Okay. And is it your belief that those family plans that are attached are the department's reasonable efforts to reunify the family?
I do.
And was that part of your goal as a permanency specialist to help the parents reunify with their children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So I'm going to ask you to pull up Petitioner's Exhibit 9 in the base case. Now, is the service plan attached for Vanessa Chavez identical in both the Bays and the Vasquez cases?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's go through Vanessa Chavez's service plan. If you could identify each service and state whether or not it was completed. If it was not completed, if you could tell us if it was ever started.
Okay. Let's see. I'll start at the beginning. Okay. The Vanessa will provide information to St. Francis Ministries within 5 days of any change in resident's phone number or employment. Vanessa may contact the permanency specialist assigned to the case. And no, that was not completed. see. Vanessa will visit with Matthew 1 hour per week. Visitations were suspended per court order. Vanessa will comply with each requirement on the original family plan of service and any amended safe service plans, and will complete any and all court-ordered services through the life of the case. No, that was not completed. Vanessa will maintain regular contact with the permanency specialist regarding her participation in progress and services. No, that was not completed. Vanessa will locate and maintain stable housing, working utilities, and is free from drugs and violence. Vanessa will remove or lock up anything in the home that possesses a risk of harm to her children. No, that was not completed. Vanessa will locate and maintain stable and appropriate employment that provides stable source of legal income adequate enough to support herself and her children. No, that was not completed. Substance abuse. Vanessa will need to complete a 12-step meeting, 2 12-step meetings a week. No, that was not completed or started. Vanessa will participate in and complete a substance abuse assessment with OSAR, that is a drug and alcohol assessment. No, that was not completed or started. Vanessa will maintain a drug-free lifestyle and abstain from the use of illegal drugs or drugs for which she does not have a valid prescription. No, that was not completed. The other part of that is Vanessa will submit to random drug test as requested by the department, and no, she was not compliant with that either. Vanessa will attend individual counseling. She did not start that, so that was not completed either. Vanessa will participate in and complete a psychosocial evaluation. She did complete that. Vanessa will actively participate in and complete parenting classes. She did complete a 8-hour parenting class during rehab. Vanessa will actively participate and complete rational behavior therapy. She did not start or complete that. And then on October 30th, she was court ordered to do the Padre program, and that was not started or completed. And she was also court ordered to do something else. Maybe it was just at the Padre program.
Your Honor, at this time, the department offers petitioners exhibits 15 in the Bays case and 16 in the Vasquez case. They are the order for recommended services, ordering Vanessa to do the Padre program. I believe it was the parenting portion, as well as domestic violence classes.
Objections?
No objection.
Right. Petitioner 15 is admitted in Bays. Petitioner 16 is admitted in Vasquez.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Paula, domestic violence classes were ordered as well. Were those completed by Vanessa Chavez?
No, they were not completed or started.
Now, as far as drug screens, since you took on the case, were there any requests to Vanessa to drug screen while you had it?
She was court ordered to go at the court hearing on August 28th, the day before I got the case. And she did go.
And was her urinalysis negative?
It was.
But was her hair follicle positive?
It was. She tested positive. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. She tested positive for cocaine at a level, let's say she tested positive for benzoglycogene, that is a compound of cocaine, at 40,973. She tested positive at for cocoethylene at a level of 15,969, and positive for cocaine metabolite at a level of 165,628, and positive for noracocaine at a level of 5,337, and positive for marijuana at 18.6.
Now, when you took the case on, is it correct that Miss Chavez had just gotten out of rehab?
Yes, just I think like maybe a week prior.
Okay. So from the end of July to the end of August 2023, she completed inpatient drug rehabilitation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, when you took the case on, where was Vanessa Chavez living?
She was living in a sober living home in Abilene.
And at some point, did she move out of there?
Yes. At the beginning of October is when I lost contact with Miss Chavez.
Okay. And do you remember the circumstances of losing contact with her?
She had sold some property and she went to go pick up the money for the property and never returned to Abilene.
Did you ever have any conversation with her about leaving the sober living facility she was staying in?
Yes. Well, I encouraged her not to return to the Amarella area to pick up the money and stuff because I knew that was a pitfall to come back to the area of use, and just really encouraged her not to do that, and that she had a good place to get on her feet right there, and that she needed to stay put.
Now let's go through the service plan of Jacob Vasquez. Your Honor, at this time, we offer petitioners Exhibit 17 as well, which is the order for recommended services on Jacob Vasquez. And I believe that was for the BIP program. Let me open it up and make sure.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes, Your Honor. And
No objection.
No objection.
All right, petitioner 17 submitted in the Vasquez case.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. And I'd like to fully read what BIP is abbreviated for. It's Batters Intervention and Prevention Program.
Okay.
Okay. Jacob Vasquez's service plan that he would provide information to St. Francis Ministries. Any changes?
Just a moment, Paula.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'd like for you to briefly summarize the service and then state the status of complete or started but incomplete or something like that. Okay.
Okay. So ask Jacob to just provide any updates of his address, phone number, any pertinent information. And no, he did not complete that. He was not compliant. For Jacob to comply with his original service plan, and no, he did not complete that. To maintain regular contact with the permanency specialist assigned, no, he did not comply with that requirement. To locate and maintain stable housing, there's no way to know if he's got stable housing or not. Everything that I have learned is he's been bouncing back and forth between Texas and Oklahoma, and I have not been able to verify where he's at or if it's stable or safe at all. Same way with his employment to see if he has any stable or appropriate income. He has not provided any kind of documentation about his employment, so I cannot verify that. That he would complete an OSAR assessment, that is a drug and alcohol assessment, that was not completed or started. That he would abstain a drug-free lifestyle and the use of illegal drugs. I would say that has not been completed. He did not comply with any of the drug testing or the OSAR assessment, so that safety concern has not been mitigated. Jacob would complete a psychosocial evaluation that has not started or completed. Jacob, he would do individual counseling that has not been started or completed. Parenting classes, no, he has not complied with that. He has not started any parenting classes. He did not start any irrational behavior therapy, so that is not in compliance.
Did he ever complete the Batters Intervention and Prevention Program?
That has not been started or completed.
In addition to that, was Jacob Vasquez as well ordered to drug screen on October 30th of 2023?
October 30th. Yes.
Okay. And was Vanessa Chavez also court ordered to drug screen on October 30th of 2023?
Yes.
And was that in both cases for Vanessa?
Yes.
And that was, those drug screens ordered were hair follicles and urinalysis drug screens. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go through Matthew Jones's service plan. If you
I didn't hear whether or not they drug tested on October 30th as court ordered.
They did not, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you could summarize each service and state whether or not it was completed or started.
Okay. That Matthew would provide any changes of his pertinent information. He has been incarcerated from the beginning of the case. So no change there. He would mean. Oh.
Paula, I'm going to interrupt you.
You bet.
Okay. I think it's important when you answer not to just state that he's incarcerated, because some services may be available for people that are incarcerated, correct?
Correct.
So instead, could you state whether or not the service was completed or never started or something to that effect? Instead of saying just he was incarcerated.
Okay. So I would say that was completed because he let me know when he was about to change facilities. Matthew will maintain regular contact. He was always willing to see me. So yes, that I would say he was in compliance. He would locate and maintain stable housing. No, that was not completed. locate and maintain stable, appropriate income. No, not completed. Matthew will maintain a drug-free lifestyle. No testing was able to be done, so I could not say that that was completed or started. He would participate in and complete a substance abuse assessment through OSAR. No, that was not started or completed. He would attend individual counseling. No, that was not started or completed. He would participate in a psychosocial evaluation. That was not started or completed. Complete a parenting class. He did part of the parenting workbook, but that was not completed. And that was his service plan.
In regards in general on progress on services, has Vanessa progressed any on services since being released from her, not released, since completing her inpatient substance abuse treatment?
She was doing very well up until the first part of October. She was maintaining contact with me until the first part of October, and then she quit calling me. She has made no progress. In fact, probably she has regressed.
Okay. And is it correct that after she disappeared at the beginning of October, she was then arrested in Hereford County?
Yes, on the 29th of October.
And those charges were drug-related charges, is that correct?
That is.
Now, can you describe your attempts to get a hold of Vanessa since she disappeared on you in October?
Well, I tried to set up a meeting with her in October to meet her in Hereford at the McDonald's in Hereford, and she did not show up. So there was that attempt. I did locate her by happenstance at the Deaf Smith County Jail, November 3rd. I was there seeing another mother and just happened to have her there at that time. And encouraged her, please call me as soon as she was released. She bonded out on the 6th, and she did not call me. Since then, I have continued to do my checks for my jail checks to see if she's been rearrested. I've tried her telephone numbers. I have no address, no known address of where she possibly can be. At the first few months, I had a courtesy worker still in Abilene checking the house to see if she had maybe returned. And of course, I've been asking Araceli, her mother, do you know where she's at? Has she told you where she's at? No. And so I've exhausted my ways of trying to find her.
I'd like to clear up the record. I referred to her arrest in Hereford County. That is actually the city of Hereford, correct?
Correct. It's Deaf Smith County.
Okay, so you saying you found her in Deaf Smith County Jail, you're referring to the same arrest I referred to occurring in Hereford, correct?
That is correct.
Now, in regards to Jacob, what attempts have you made to engage Jacob in services since you took the case on? I've
tried texting, telephone calls. I've gone by several different addresses. I've been geotex, Vine link searches to see if he's been arrested in anywhere. I've mailed letters to the addresses that I have and just exhausted my ways of trying to find him.
And have any of those attempts been successful?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever received a call back or a text back from Jacob?
No.
In regards to Vanessa specifically, have you ever received a call or a text from Vanessa that you did not return?
No.
Now, in regards to Matthew Jones, what attempts have you made to help him engage in services?
Well, of course, I went to visit with him. My time with Matthew has been short and kind of hindered a little bit because of his incarceration. But I got to go and visit with him, and of course, visit at length with him while he was in jail and talk about his services in any ways that we could engage him in services as far as any extra workbooks or programs that were offered there at the jail. And that was in September and in October. November, he was shipped out to prison, and then was at different jails. Of course, we really tried to talk about writing letters or anything that possibly could help with contact with the child if it was therapeutically okay once we got to that point. But just to encourage him, don't don't give up, basically. But at the same time, just to be aware of the situation.
Okay. Your Honor, I ask the court take judicial notice of the permanency hearing order before final order heard on October 30th in 2023 in the Bays case.
All right, so noted.
Thank you, Your Honor. And in that order, I ask the court to note that it ordered communication with the child for Matthew only as recommended by the child's therapist.
So noted.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Now, Paula, did the child's therapist ever recommend for that communication to start?
No, the therapist has been out, and we've had a tough time getting him going into therapy again. And I've been working with Araceli to get that going. Araceli had some major medical issues as well. And so there has been some hindrance on that, but that is still on our radar to get him going on that again.
Are we asking the court to terminate the parental rights of Vanessa to both?
Yes.
Can you please explain why that would be in the best interest of Matthew and Antonio?
Okay. Well, Vanessa has not addressed the safety concerns. And placing the children back in her care would put these children in grave danger. Terminating her rights would provide these children the ability to move forward and find stability with the grandmother, who has already started the process of getting verified and to open the door for adoption. They know they're safe where they're at. They're loved and all their needs are being met. And it is just the best place for them.
Now, in regard to Jacob Vasquez, is it in his best interest that Jacob's rights be terminated to Antonio?
Yes.
Can you please explain why?
The same. He has not addressed or even attempted to address any of the safety concerns. He has shown no interest in regaining any custody of his child. Terminating his rights would provide an opportunity for this child who is so young to move forward and find stability, find permanency, be adopted with his, by his grandparents, be raised in a loving, wonderful home that's supportive and meeting all of his needs, and grow up healthy and happy and well cared for.
Does it concern you children have been exposed physically to cocaine?
Absolutely.
And that both children have tested positive for it?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you believe it is in Matthew Bays's best interest that Matthew Jones's parental rights be terminated?
I do.
Can you please explain why?
Matthew Jones is incarcerated for the next 29 years. By the time Matthew Jones gets out of prison, he's 38 years old. By terminating Mr. Jones's rights, that will open the door and the opportunity to find permanency and to move forward, to be adopted by his grandparents, to be raised in a loving, stable home where his needs are met, and he can move forward with his life.
Are we asking today for the department to be named permanent managing conservator of the children?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that a part of the long-term plan for the children to be adopted by Arcelia and Genaro Chavez through the department?
Yes.
And do you believe that's in the children's best interest as well?
I do.
Okay. Just a moment. Do you believe that Vanessa Chavez provide for the emotional or physical needs of the children now or in the future?
No, I do not think she could provide for either.
Do you believe that Jacob Vasquez can provide for the emotional and physical needs of Antonio now and in the future?
No, I do not.
Do you believe that Matthew Jones can provide for the emotional and physical needs of Matthew now and in the future?
No, I do not.
Do you believe that Vanessa Chavez poses an emotional and physical danger to both Antonio and to Matthew?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that Jacob Vasquez presents an emotional and physical danger? Do you believe that Matthew Jones presents an emotional and physical danger to the child, Matthew?
I do.
Do you believe that any of these parents, Vanessa, Jacob, or Matthew Jones, has the parental abilities to take care of any of these children?
I do not.
Do you believe that any of these parents have the stability in their homes to take care of these children?
No, I do not.
And in regards to Matthew and Vanessa, have they continued their criminal drug lifestyle throughout the case?
Yes.
And would you agree that Matthew Jones's choices and criminal activity has resulted in him being completely unavailable to provide for the child emotionally and physically?
Yes.
In addition, does the violent nature of the murder charge for which Matthew Jones is incarcerated for cause you concern?
Yes.
Have the children been in the custody of the department for at least 9 months?
Yes.
Has the department made reasonable efforts to return both children to Vanessa?
Yes.
Has the department made reasonable efforts to return Antonio to Jacob?
Yes.
Has the department made reasonable efforts to return Matthew Bays to Matthew Jones?
Yes.
In addition to that, is it correct that Antonio was positive for cocaine at birth and marijuana?
Yes.
And in regards to Matthew Jones, that he has been convicted of murder,
Yes.
as well as will be incarcerated for greater than 2 years.
Yes.
Would you agree that Matthew Jones has shown an inability to provide the child with a safe environment?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Purtle,
No questions.
Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. You testified that Matthew Jones had not been compliant with all but the first couple of items on his service plan. I'd like to look at that. With regard to each of those items, because of his incarceration, he did not have those items available to him, did he? For example, counseling wasn't available to him, was it?
His incarceration did hinder him. Yes.
Pardon?
His incarceration did hinder him. Yes.
Okay. Prevented him from doing the individual counseling, correct?
Yes.
He could not take the OSAR assessment because of his incarceration, correct?
Correct.
And I'm trying to remember, I think the BIP was one of them. Is that correct?
No, Mr. Jones did not have to do the BIP.
Okay. Was domestic violence one of them?
Not for Mr. Jones.
Not on his. Okay. What else was there besides the OSAR and the individual counseling?
Well, he needed to provide stable housing.
Stable housing and employment. He couldn't do either one of those because of his incarceration, right?
Well, correct, because he was incarcerated.
Okay. Now, Ms. Gutierrez said that there were things that he could have done while he was in jail. What are those items specifically?
Well, he did not complete the parenting workbook that was provided to him.
Okay, there's a parenting workbook that he could have completed but did not complete. What else?
I mean, there are other programs in that the jail offers.
And I'm asking you what those are.
Well, a lot of jails offer what's called COPS. It's a mental health and drug program.
Is that offered specifically by the Potter County Detention Center?
I do not know that answer, sir.
Okay, so you don't know.
No.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
Ms. Chavez.
No questions.
Okay.
I
Anybody
have
have,
no questions, Judge.
oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson. I skipped you. Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Anybody have follow-ups for Ms. Miers?
May I speak?
Who's this?
No.
Matthew Jones.
You can only speak if you're called as a witness, sir.
Oh, okay. May I be called as a witness?
You want to talk to your lawyer in the breakout room?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Judge, while this is taking place, this hearing has started for me at 3 o'clock. Can I ask for recess?
Yeah, how long are you going to need for your other hearing?
Judge, it's a friendly suit, and so it could take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes.
All right. We're gonna finish this today, so we will all just wait for Miss Gutierrez. What?
Your Honor, for when we come back, I do have follow-up questions for Paula Miers.
Okay, just remind me when we come back.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Miss Gutierrez, you had follow-up questions for Miss Miers?
Yes, Your Honor. Paula, in regards to Matthew Jones, is it correct that the 2019 final order didn't allow him access to?
This is correct.
Okay. And is it correct that in 2020, the child tested positive simultaneous with Vanessa Chavez for cocaine?
Yes, it is.
Is it correct that in 2018, Vanessa Chavez was arrested for driving while intoxicated with
Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did Matthew Jones ever identify any services available to him in Potter County Jail?
No, ma'am.
Did he ever identify any services to him available in TDCJ?
No, ma'am.
So there were no services pointed out by Matthew Jones that could have substituted for services in his service plan. Is that correct?
Correct. He has not brought any to me. Correct.
Has he provided you any certificates of completion for services that would fulfill his service plan?
Not to me, no.
Now, do you think a parent's incarceration solves any problems they may have with violence?
No.
Do you believe it solves any issues they may have with parenting?
No.
Do you feel that Matthew Bays's incarceration should absolve him of working services needed to reunify with his child?
No.
Pass the witness.
Anyone else have further questions for Ms. Miers?
No questions.
No?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
How long have you been on the case, ma'am?
I got the case on August 29th.
And is there anything in your file indicating that anybody that worked the case before you had received anything from Mr. Jones or anyone on his behalf indicating that he had been involved in any kind of program while incarcerated?
I looked in the record, and I have not found any certificates of completion.
Okay, so you're telling me that he's never had a conversation with you, and there's nothing in the file to indicate that he had informed anyone else that he'd been involved with, that he'd actually become a mentor and been involved on a regular ongoing basis with a program called Houses of Healing?
I'm sorry, what was your question in that?
That he is a mentor while incarcerated with a program called Houses of Healing.
Was I aware that he was a mentor? Is that your question, sir?
Yes. Have you not been informed of that?
Yes, I am aware that he was a mentor. Yes, sir.
How did you become aware of that?
Well, he talked to me. He told me that he was.
Okay, he told you he was. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you have any other information other than him telling you that?
No, sir.
Okay. And what did he tell you about that?
That he had been incarcerated for a very long time and that he was a mentor
Okay.
for other inmates.
That program involved an hour a day every day, plus an additional 4 hours a week of meeting with other inmates and with trainers who assist him. Is that correct? Did he not tell you that?
No, sir.
Okay. Now let's talk about that parenting handbook. Is it actually a 3-part handbook?
I believe so.
Okay. And which part do you show that he completed?
I do not have that handbook.
Okay. So you're showing that he only completed one part of it?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any indication as to which part he completed?
No, sir.
are you familiar enough with it to know that you said that you're aware that there are 3 parts of it, correct?
I believe there is 3 parts. Yes.
And one part
At
is
least
anger.
3 parts.
One part is anger management, one part is cognitive, and one part is parenting. Is that correct?
I believe there's different skills in there. Yes.
Okay. Now, of those 3 parts, are you aware of which part you show he completed?
No.
Okay. But you're not showing that he completed the other 2 parts, whichever they are.
Your
No,
Honor,
sir.
I object to asked and answered.
Yeah, it's been asked and answered multiple times.
Trying to get clarification, Your Honor, but okay.
Well, it's not getting any clearer.
With regard to him being a mentor in this program called Houses of Healing, did he go into any kind of detail with you in explaining what that consisted of?
Your Honor, objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anyone else have further questions for Ms. Miers?
No questions.
All right. Ms. Miers, I believe you testified.
No questions.
I believe you testified that Ms. Chavez did an inpatient drug treatment program.
Yes, sir.
Do you know, was that court ordered or was that part of her service plan that was court ordered?
No, she went on her own.
Okay.
From the okay.
That's all I needed
Okay.
to know, whether it was court ordered or not. So, okay, thank you. All right then, Ms. Gutierrez, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the department rests. I do ask, though, before I fully rest, for the court to take judicial notice that no motions were filed on behalf of Matthew Jones to alter his service plan that was made in order of the court at the status hearing.
Okay, so noted. All right then, Mr. Pirtle, witnesses.
Yeah, Your Honor, I'd like to call my client Vanessa Chavez.
Mr. Pirtle?
All right, thank you, Judge. Ms. Chavez, please state your name for the record.
Vanessa Acosta Chavez.
Okay, and you're the mother of the 2 children before the court, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, are you in agreement with the children be adopted by the grandparents?
I'm really not in it. If it's the only option, I would, but I've been a mom to my first son, and I just feel like I could just be a mom to my other son too. It's just the way it's rolling out right now, or like the way it's coming out, it feels like the best option would be my mother, of course, for the time being, until I'm able to like save enough money to be able to take care of both of my children, since the first dad is incarcerated and the second one doesn't want nothing to do with them. So I would need help. Like, it would help to have that, at least to fall back onto, for my parents to have like legal rights to them.
Okay, Ms. Chavez, are you asking the court not to terminate your parental rights?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you explain to the court why they shouldn't terminate your parental rights?
My kids are what I usually just look forward to every day. I mean, I've always been a stay-at-home mom. I've always had my kids around. I've raised Jacob's 5 other kids with him. I've had kids around my whole life. Like, that's the only thing that I feel like I have a calling for, is children. And it's like that one thing is going to be taken away from me. And my children are kids are something that is a necessity in this world. And that's just what my happiness is based off of, is the kids and like just activities that we're doing. And it's just, I don't want my kids to be asking questions later on, like as in, oh, why were you there for my older brother or not like me? Like, how you, like, just questions that are going to come up later on. So
okay.
It's
all right. I passed the witness.
Ms. Gutierrez, questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Taylor?
No questions.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir. Ms. Chavez, when was the last time you had contact with Jacob Busquets?
It's been before rehab. I was a week before I went to rehab was the last time I seen him.
When was that?
It was July, I believe, 2nd.
Okay. At that time, do you know where he was residing?
No, sir. He kind of just never like called me. I never knew where he was at. It's like he's kind of like not running for me, but he's just dodging me. So it's just been really, I haven't even heard anything from him other than like his sister saying some things like, "Oh yeah, he's okay."
Ma'am, you've answered the question. You haven't talked to him since July.
Judge,
Yeah.
I think we lost Cody.
Yeah, here he is again in the waiting room.
Judge, I have no further questions.
All right. Mr. Ingram, questions?
No questions.
All right. Acelia Chavez, do you have questions for Vanessa Chavez?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you. All right, then, Mr. Pirtle, any other witnesses?
No other witnesses, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call Matthew Jones.
Okay.
And Matthew, you indicated you wanted me to call you so that you could clarify the record with regard to programs that you've been in while incarcerated. Tell me about this mentoring program that you're involved in with Houses of Healing, please.
Yes, sir. House of the Healing was a intensive care class. So you go into cognitive thinking, anger management, and dealing with your childhood injuries and wounds so that you could heal and move past them and better yourself. I started that program in 2021, and then I became a mentor, and I mentored that program and also went into the relationships and recovery, which was another intensive program about your relationships with your loved ones and keeping them positive and how to end toxic relationships. And I was a mentor in programs from the beginning of 2022 until I came to TDC in November 6th of 2023. And then in the beginning of my case, when we first went over my family plan, I discussed that with Sarah Campbell and Mariah Glidewell, and they specifically put it where my programs would count as my parenting classes. And then my teachers, my program directors, Miss Ray and Miss Bridget, wrote a support letter with all my certificates and sent them to Sarah. Specifically, Sarah Campbell's name was on there. And it had as I completed more classes, because I had a parenting class. I completed 4 programs at Potter County, but it was before the case started, and they didn't have another one start. But I completed a anger management, I think it was a cognitive thinking, a wellness class, and another one. And as I received the certificates, I sent them to the program or to whoever was in charge of my case at the time, because it kept changing people. And then I finished the 3 packets. I sent the parenting off first, and then as I finished the anger management, I sent it off in the mail. And then cognitive thinking was the last packet I completed that I received from, I think I had received them from Lisa before she left. And they never got returned to me in the mail, so I thought they had received them.
What specific areas of what topics basically does your mentoring in the Houses of Healing? What areas do you cover in that?
Oh man, it covers everything from anger management to cognitive thinking to childhood wounds and growing past them, and then you do toxic relationships and how to know the difference between toxic and positive, and how to set boundaries, and then once for 1 hour each day we turned off the TV, and we would have a counseling where we all sit together and discuss like any problems we're having or anything we're going through. And I had originally talked to Mariah and Sarah, my first 2 caseworkers, and they said that would count towards my counseling.
Have you obtained and provided to CPS any documentation from anyone else with the program?
Yes, sir. Miss Ray and Miss Bridget actually wrote a whole support letter with a printout of all my classes and sent it to Mariah and Sarah at the beginning.
You mentioned that one of them is your...
But whenever it switched to Lisa, Lisa was real standoffish and not really very well involved.
You mentioned that one of these individuals is your program director?
Yes, sir. Miss Ray is the head program director there, and then Miss Bridget is also program director for relationships and recovery. They both did a support letter together with a packet with all the classes I had taken before and were currently involved in.
You mentioned that this involves meeting daily for an hour.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned also that something about 4 hours a week in addition to that daily.
Yes, sir. We had class on Tuesday for 2 hours and Friday for 2 hours. Yes, sir. But that's with the program directors.
Okay. Now, you're not expecting that to change the outcome of this hearing or anything, are you?
Oh no, sir. I just wanted to make a point and let the parties involved know I did the most I could from where I was. So that way his mother and his grandmother would know.
You do acknowledge that you received a 29-year sentence
Yes, sir.
and that you're not even going to be eligible for parole until Matthew is going to be, 19 years old?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Jones, you said these two people you keep mentioning sent support letters listing all your classes. They were sent to who?
Sarah Campbell and Mariah Glidewell. They were the first two original caseworkers on my case.
Okay. You heard Miss Glidewell testify today. She didn't testify to anything about that, did she?
I didn't know if I could just talk or how. I'm sorry, I didn't know how all this worked.
Okay. All right. All right, then. Let's see, Ms. Gutierrez, any questions for Mr. Jones?
Very, very few, Your Honor. Mr. Jones, you agree that you're incarcerated on a murder charge, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did drug use have any role to play in where you are now?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you using drugs back in 2019 when the murder occurred?
Yes, ma'am.
What drugs were you using?
Marijuana and cocaine.
Did you hear testimony today that Matthew had tested positive for cocaine in 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you weren't allowed to be a part of his life because of a 2019 order, is that correct?
I was never aware of that order until they never sent me a copy of it. My lawyer could not find a copy of it in y'all's files or any other. I was not aware of that until the caseworkers told me when we were trying to get my visitation set up. My lawyer couldn't find anything about it.
Your Honor, I asked the court to take judicial notice of the transfer packet from Potter County filed into the Randall County case.
So noted.
Now, Mr. Bays, was there domestic violence between you and Vanessa Chavez?
His name is Mr. Jones.
Oh my goodness. Mr. Jones, I apologize, sir. You and your son having the same first name and a different last name has completely thrown me off, but I do apologize, sir. Was there domestic violence between you and Vanessa?
No, ma'am.
And did you hear testimony today that Matt's in the car with Vanessa when she got a DWI in 2018?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you a part of Matt's life in 2018?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you aware that Vanessa had that charge?
Yes, ma'am. I wasn't aware that Matthew was in the car with her, though.
And during the investigation, you reported to Rudy Flores that you understood or you remembered Vanessa struggled with alcohol. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. I did say that she drinks every now and then and that she was prescribed Xanax.
Do you agree that you're not able to provide for your child at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you agree that your child will be well into adulthood by the time you're released from prison?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think the choices you've made in committing the criminal activity were good parenting, sir?
No, ma'am.
Do you acknowledge that the choices you made were not in Matthew's best interest?
Yes, ma'am.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Pirtle, questions?
No questions, Judge.
Mr. Jackson, questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right, Cecilia Chavez, any questions for Mr. Jones?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, then, Mr. Taylor, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor. Rest.
Mr. Jackson, witnesses?
No witnesses, rest and close.
Mr. Ingram, witnesses?
No witnesses.
All right, and then Ms. Chavez, did you want to testify or do you have any witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, Mr. Ingram, recommendations.
Yes, sir. With regard to the case on Matt, I believe it to be in his best interest that the mother Vanessa Chavez parental rights be terminated. Also believe it to be in his best interest that his father, Matthew Jones, parental rights be terminated, and that the department be named as permanent managing conservator. In the case with regard to Antonio, believe it to be in his best interest that the mother, Vanessa Chavez, parental rights be terminated. Also believe it to be in his best interest that the father, Jacob Vasquez, parental rights be terminated, and the department be named as permanent managing conservator. Placements remain as is with both children with the maternal grandparents.
All right, then. I'm going to go back this evening and look over my notes from the hearing that we started on Monday, as well as those exhibits that were admitted back on Monday. And I will rule by email tomorrow to all parties.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I make a very brief request. We are requesting that in addition to whatever termination grounds the court feels are appropriate, such as D, E, and O, that the court consider awarding the termination ground in the Vasquez case of the letter R for Antonio being born positive for cocaine against Vanessa Chavez, specifically for Antonio. We also ask that in regards to Matthew's case, that the termination grounds L for the murder conviction, as well as Q for incarcerated past 2 years, be considered for Matthew Jones.
Okay. Ms. Gutierrez, I'm looking at R, and I'm looking at the very beginning of 161.001. R says that what you're saying is you want me to find the mother was the cause of the child being born addicted to alcohol or a controlled substance other than a controlled substance legally obtained by prescription. It refreshed my memory. I don't recall hearing any testimony that the child was born addicted, just that he tested positive.
I believe that statute includes, that addresses the presumption if there's a positive screen. Let me pull that statute up right now, Your Honor.
Okay, yeah, because I'd like to know that before we sign off here. I intend to have everything ready to rule tomorrow.
Your Honor, the note about that may have been in the comments of O'Connor. I don't see it within the statute. I do believe there was testimony by Rodolfo Flores, about the child going through withdrawal and having to be in the neonatal intensive care unit due to the exposure.
Maybe that's in my notes. If I may not be ruling tomorrow, then I may be calling on Miss Taylor to give me Rudy's testimony. So I'll look into it. I don't recall that, but I'm not looking at my notes from when Mr. Flores testified. So I'll either rule tomorrow. If I don't, it's because I'm waiting for Miss Taylor to get me his testimony so I can read through it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then. If there's nothing else, then we will stand in recess. This was the last thing we had this afternoon. So y'all have a good rest of your week, and I'll rule tomorrow. If not, I'll rule as soon as I get what I need from Miss Taylor.
Your Honor, may I have another very brief breakout with Matthew Jones?
Yeah, very brief. I'll have to keep the Zoom open. So if I cut y'all off, it's because I've got to go. But I'll open that breakout room now.
It'll be very brief.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, everyone else free to go. Y'all have a good rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Judge.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Judge,
Amy.
you want me to go ahead and get started on that or wait until you look at
No,
it?
wait. It may be. I may find it in my notes. I don't want you to have to do it if I can find it.
Okay. Just
Okay.
text me. I can get on it when you're deciding.
Yeah. And you kind of heard it, Amy. You know what I'll be looking for. Anything about whether or not the child was in the neonatal or born addicted. That's all I need.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bill, I'll open up your breakout room now.
Thank you.